Hello there folks, and a very warm welcome as usual back to What's for Tea, and I hope that I find you very well indeed. So it's a wee bit different to my normal schedule. I normally upload a shopping video or shopping haul video tonight, but we're actually away, so I haven't been shopping yet, but I thought I'd pop this up just to give you something to watch. These are absolutely delicious and originally done about 5 years ago, so I will hand you over to me from about 5 years ago and I will catch up with you at the end. Hope you enjoy this one. I'll see you at the end. Bye now. Prepare our veggies. You're going to need some potatoes, some carrots and some onions. So a nice dry potato like Maris Piper's or King Edward's, or something floury, nothing waxy. A couple of carrots and also a large onion. So you just want to chop everything quite finely, and the potatoes you want to keep obviously quite big and chunky, but try and keep them roughly the same size so that they cook at the same time. So you want a large pan of cold water and just pop your potatoes straight in there, and you want to bring these up to a simmer before you add your salt, because the salt will prevent your water from boiling as quickly as you would like. It does take longer to come to the boil if you add your, the salt into the cold water. Yeah. So pop in your salt once it's at the boil, and you want to simmer them until they're tender. So now we're going to move on and start your mince. So pop a wee bit of oil, whatever oil you like, into a pan. Add your minced beef or your minced lamb, depending on what you want to use. You just want to make sure it's browned all over, just like this, ideal. So I'm just going to push my mince over to the side and add the onions and the carrots. So you just want to give these a good stir through. You want to soften these quite well, so I would give them about 10 minutes with the lid on. So at this point I'm going to go back and check my potatoes. Now these are tender and they're just falling off the knife, so I'm just going to drain the water out and give the pan a good shake just to sort of rumble them up a wee bit. I'm going to add a knob of butter and some cream, and I'm also adding some grated cheese. You don't have to do this, that's just what I decided to do. And give them a good mash until it's lump free and smooth. You just want to cool this down a wee bit because it's going to be far too hot to use at the moment. So I'm just going to cover mine with some plastic wrap to prevent a skin. If you put some plastic wrap on, you won't get any sort of skin on there as it cools. So set that to the side and go back to your mince. This will have had enough time now to soften up. I'm going to add 2 beef OXO cubes, but if you don't have OXO cubes, beef bouillon would do. A couple of teaspoons of beef bouillon or whatever stock you have, stock type cubes. Just give that a good stir around to mix it through, and add 1 tablespoon of tomato puree. Again, just give it a good mix through until it's all throughout your mixture. And then 2 tablespoons of Worcester sauce. I'm not going to try and say Worcestershire. So Worcester sauce it'll do. Give it a good stir around and then add in 1 tablespoon of, I'm using plain flour, just to thicken everything up. Again, just give it a good stir through to make sure it's well incorporated into your mixture. Now you're going to have to add some water to this to get it to your desired thickness, but you don't want it too thick and you don't want it too runny, because as this cools, more water will escape and it will get thicker. So just bear that in mind when you're adding your water. So let that simmer for a few minutes, and then you can add in your frozen peas. Again, the amount is up to you. I used about 200 grams, but all of the things in this recipe is really down to what you like and what you don't like. And once it's been simmering, just to warm the peas through and soften up, this is what you should have left. Now we're going to let this cool as well, along with the potatoes. You don't need them cooled completely, just cooled down a good bit. But like I said, remember, the water will evaporate from that mince and it will get thicker. So just bear that in mind when you're adding your water. So the puff pastry that I'm using is just this ready-made just roll. I've got 2 sheets of this because I'm going to be doing 7 pies. So again, you can adjust that to suit yourself. And I'm just going to use the top of a soup bowl to cut my pastry cases out, because this was the ideal size. You just want to cut your circles out slightly bigger than your wee pie tins, whatever you're using, just so that it comes up the sides. and create a nice wee nest for your filling. I would usually use a cookie cutter, but I can't find the one that I normally use, so that's why I'm using a soup bowl. And any pastry you've got left, you can use in other recipes because it freezes really well. But I used 2 rolls. You just want to grab your tins, whatever you're using, and just place your pastry in and just sort of gently press it into the bottom and up the sides. Just tease it up the sides with your thumbs. Very gently does it, because you don't want it too thin on the sides. You want it quite even. And if you get a wee bubble, just give it a wee prick with a toothpick or a sharp knife and that bubble will come out. So that's your pastry cases ready. Now we can turn our attention back to the filling, and as you can see, it has thickened up a good bit. But there's still bags of gravy in there. As it warms in the oven, it will release more gravy. And then your mashed potato, you just want to go back, sort of break it up and smooth it out again with a spoon. You can add a wee dash of milk in there if you feel it's too thick. Now you don't want to overfill your pies. Remember, you have your mashed potato to go on top. So I'm just going to quickly show you how I put the mashed potato on, but it's really easy. Just put wee blobs on with a teaspoon and just make sure you connect your potato with the top of your pie crust to create a bit of a seal, because you don't want all your gravy leaking out and down the side, down the sides of your pastry. Take you a couple of minutes, but it is worth it. And if you find that you pick up any peas or any wee bits of mince, like I did here, you can easily just disguise it. Put a wee bit of potato down from the top and just cover it. And I overdone it here, and I've got another wee bit of mince poking through. So I'm just going to grab another wee bit of potato and sort of put it on top, just to cover that up. Not that it makes any difference, but I'm a bit of a perfectionist. It doesn't make any difference to the flavour. So just smooth out your tops like I'm doing. And the last thing I'm going to do is add a wee bit of grated cheese on the top. Again, this is optional because I wanted quite dark tops. I done a batch without the grated cheese and just used a wee bit of parsley, and they come out of the oven much, much lighter. Because I've used the cheese on top of these ones, they come out of the oven darker than my second batch. So it just depends what sort of look you're going for. And this was my first batch just out of the oven, and they look wonderful. And I just wanted to pick them up just to make sure the pastry was done underneath, and it is. Wonderful. I would give these a few minutes just sitting in the tin because these are volcanic hot, so you won't be able to pick them up straight away. So give them a few minutes and you'll be able to handle these quite easily. So I've served these with some mashed turnip, or of course the good old baked beans go fabulous with this kind of thing. Absolutely incredible. And I haven't seen these in bakers round about where I am, but they are very popular in certain other bakers apparently. So I highly recommend you give these a go if you like your pies, and if you like a shepherd's pie. I don't think you can go wrong with these. So do let me know what you thought of that one. It's a proper comfort food recipe. It's basically shepherd's pie in a pie, and they are so tasty. So if you do like shepherd's pie, I'm going to guess you'll love those. So thanks so much for watching, and a huge thank you as usual to the supporters of the channel over on my Patreon page, to the channel members here on YouTube, for you all for watching, leaving your lovely comments, those that thumbs up the videos, those that share the videos, or who have left me a super thanks donation on the channel, or bought me a coffee using the Buy Me a Coffee link. And I will be back soon, and we'll be back on track with our normal schedule. So until I see you again, mind to take care, and bye for now. Bye now.